Hey, welcome back to Two Stupid Guys Trade Stocks. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Vinny, and we're going to talk about how poverty in America ain't cheap and some of the hidden prices of being poor in the United States in 2024. We're going to talk about it in this video. Get to it.
Two stupid guys, trade stocks.
So this is mostly a stock channel, but like Dylan and I are just generally interested in personal finance and kind of, overall engineering and investing our lives to achieve the maximum amount in some sort of comfort and hopefully, security, right? So
Yeah.
this is what started. I like to peruse a lot of various Reddit threads, and I saw this post today, and I felt so bad for this person. There's the username. It's over on Poverty Finance, and this poor individual was doing something called care credit. Have you ever heard of care credit?
Yes.
Okay. So you're familiar with it. So a lot of times you have these care credit and these sort of 0% or deferred interest agreements. What happens is if you violate that contract in any way, shape, or form, they immediately hit you with all of the back interest. So this individual was paying, I think they said it was some care credit for some dental work they had done. They're paying on it for 2 years, and they ended up being just like a day late. Like if you watch their payment history here, it's like the 13th, the 8th, that was early, 12th, 13th, 14th, 14th, 13th, and then the 15th. They were
15th.
just a day late, apparently, for this month, and they got hit with $2,400 in back interest all the way back to their original purchase.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
It's scary.
a lot of those companies are a scam. It's not cool. Anytime you see zero APR and you're like, oh, cool, I'm just going to let it sit. And then it's like 27% interest. You got to be
Yeah,
real careful because
yeah.
someone's making money off you.
Exactly. I personally use those too, but I am extremely careful about it. You cannot rely on their minimum payment calculations. You have to, actually calculate your own minimum payment in order to ensure that the balance is paid off in full before that date comes due. You cannot be late. You have to be really on top of this. I'm probably a little bit obsessive with it, and I would say I check. I have two of these that are open right now, and I check them at least once a week. So I'm a little bit obsessive with that.
Isn't a firm one of these?
So that's a little bit different. That's buy now, pay later. We're going to talk about those in a second here, but
Okay.
this is like the deferred interest
Got
sort
it.
of setup. Right? All right. So deferred interest, basically the 0% paid if paid in full within 12 months. Promotional offers. This is actually the AI Google response.
Yeah,
It's
I'm waiting
one of the
for
highlights.
someone to put glue on my pizza in here. Is that
Yeah.
is that what's going to happen? Is this an
I
accurate
mean, it
definition?
depends if you have. What's your opinion of Domino's? That's basically glue on pizza, I think. But
That's
it's
gross.
whatever. Uh, all right. So some say that deferred interest offers can be risky and should be avoided. Consumers may find the cost of deferred interest less transparent. All right, if you want to slide yourself up here for a second, and could end up paying more than expected. That's the real disclaimer here. And even AI knows this. Okay, it actually caught the fact that you have to be really, really careful with these, and then you could end up getting yourself into a situation where just one day late can cost you $2,400, which is bananas to me. All right. So this is analysis from it's like CFP is Consumer Fair Credit Bureau of Credit, something like that.
That
Um, yeah, I know it doesn't quite make sense. But they're talking about this is the buy now, pay later. This is your firms. It
okay.
was an analysis they did that basically said that people that are using these tend to be less affluent households, and they have higher incidence of other kind of financial issues and red flags like these overdrafts and payday loans. All right. And what is this buy now, pay later? All right. So this is that a little Affirm or Klarna, those little things you see at checkout where it allows you to split it into multiple payments. Now, they are basing that on a discount that they receive from the merchant themselves, from 2 to 8%, depending on the merchant, is kind of what I saw for a range here. Um, but they also have the ability to charge you this, you know, uh, punitive interest rate if you exceed that. I couldn't find the exact number on here, but there is been published data or has been published data showing how many people end up in that time period, and it's not a insignificant amount. There's enough people that end up in that period where they start accumulating interest that makes it worthwhile for these companies to be in this business. Like that's how they're paying for this free money that the those of us that are always perfect end up paying, right?
Yeah,
Here's
it's
what's up.
important to realize that everybody's a product for these companies, right?
Mhm.
It's they're making money somehow.
Yeah. And those of us that will use these and benefit from this 0% money and being able to allocate capital to other things like, I don't know, maybe saving and investing, um, we are ultimately being the beneficiaries of someone else's bleeding a little bit. So that's something on a moral conscious level that you probably should at least include in your analysis. But to each their own. So you've heard of this food desert kind of concept?
Yes, from watching an episode on Shopped where they talked about it. That's
Okay.
it.
All right. Interesting. Did not really watch Shopped. But basically, the concern here is that there's a lot of people in the U.S. that are over a mile away from a supermarket, right? And because of that, they have significant financial burden in getting there, right? Like they're having to have a vehicle. The American population is very much automotive, kind of leaning, and obviously, in this, I'm not going to talk about specifics on vehicle cost right now, but they're high, right? It says as well as interest
Very
rates.
high.
So we're going to take a different kind of tact on this. This is some published research where they're talking about these food deserts and people's kind of poor access to the supermarkets and the effects that they have upon their health. Right? So studies have considered living in a food desert to be a risk factor for having a suboptimal diet. All right, for older adults with limited independence and mobility. Consuming food rich in salt, sugar, carbs, unhealthy fats can raise the risk of diseases, including type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure. All right, the next chart we're going to show you is actually like a much more like quantitative analysis on how significant this can be. All right, this is from a published medical research. Dylan and I both work in medicine, so this is kind of like right up our alley here. So this was a paper that looked at both breast cancer and colon cancer survival rates, looking at food deserts. All right, look at this. So the 5-year survival for residents was 60% versus 64% for non-food food desert residents for breast cancer. All right, and that's controlling for all other factors.
All other variables are controlled.
Yep. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's a lot.
And then what was the number for the colorectal cancer? Um, uh,
78 with 80. 5 years
yeah.
variable. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So it wasn't just one kind of cancer. This is across like, two significant cancers, and it was controlling for all the other variables. We see these p-values being these super, super low numbers, p 0.0001. That's telling you that this is definitely a factor in resulting in
Yeah.
this poorer outcome
It's
for these
not
people.
random, is essentially what the p-value is. It is statistically significant and due to the variable.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's due to this poor access to food. That's another way that poverty is expensive. All right. Relationship between credit scores and interest rates. All right, this kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I think
Yeah.
this one makes more sense. This is going to be less depressing to me than the food desert thing.
Okay. But it just how large the numbers can be. All right, this is where it gets kind of crazy. So this is looking at a $250,000 mortgage, which I know don't exist. This is actually from like 2018. And look at the interest rate spread here, right? 4.2%. I mean, people would kill for a 4.2% mortgage right now, and even the highest in this is a 5.8%, which is another rate that people would absolutely go bananas over. But look at the difference in total interest paid over the 30-year mortgage. $192,000 versus $280,000. It costs you an extra $100,000 for having the two extremes credit scores here.
Okay,
Bananas.
it does. There's a caveat here. I'm going to say a lot of people don't hold their mortgage for 30 years. A, they either refinance or sell or keep it, congrats to you, and rent it out.
Yeah.
2, it's 30 years. That's a long time. But I will say the difference is about $250 a month, which that's fairly material and important between the 760 to 850 and the low end.
Absolutely. Here's another interesting little thing about how it costs you money to be poor. This is looking at overdraft fees. Right? You think about how much money banks make in these non-sufficient fund fee and overdraft fees. You're looking at billions of dollars per quarter. Granted, it's down over the last few years, which is actually a nice thing. Looking at 2022 is the dark green bars versus 2015 to 2019 average. So they were averaging over $2.5 billion a quarter. So I think it was tracking around like $6 to $8 billion now, rather than the $10 billion per year that it was previously. But it's another one that has a significant kind of shift depending on household income. So around 1/3 of households making less than $65,000 per year had a non-sufficient fund or overdraft fee in the previous year. only 10% of households with over $175,000 annually actually have that. So this is another regressive tax situation where these people are paying significantly more for having less to begin with. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's not ideal. I'm having a very cynical thought in my head, so never. I'm gonna. Never
Okay,
mind.
fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. Have you ever driven through like a not so great part of town and seen like windows painted like this? These payday loan places.
Yes, I lived in a
Okay.
city where this was fairly common. Don't ever step foot in one of these. You want to do everything you can not to go to a loan shark. They literally just rape your finances. So,
The good news there, Dylan, is that it's 2024. You don't have to go in them anymore. They're right on your smartphone.
oh Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, that's another one. It's become so accessible to have these short-term, high interest rate loans. Dave's an interesting one. I was reading a little bit about it. It sounds like, there's you pay a processing fee if you want the money kind of fast, which obviously people do when they're in this situation, but you don't necessarily have to pay an interest rate. You tip.
You tip?
Yeah, can you imagine tipping your bank?
It's like tipping your landlord. No, I can't. Who would tip?
Yeah, exactly.
How are they in business?
I mean, occasionally I like to send Jamie Dimon $20 just cash mailed an envelope, but I don't know. It's
I
not
just
responding to any letters.
uh,
But that's
we're
literally
missing
what
something.
Dave's business model, I guess, is.
We're
From
missing
reading about,
something
I've never
on
used it.
Dave's. That doesn't make any sense. There's no one would tip. No one in their right mind would tip.
Apparently, people do. I'd be fascinated if they actually put the data out and what percentage of people actually voluntarily pay additional money for this access. I get the fact that they charge this interest, this fee, or to have access money fast. Like, okay, people will do that because they need the money desperately. If you're turning to an app like this, but the tipping is bananas to me. But yeah, these apps are basically the old school payday loans, and they're right on your phone, and you can have access to that money immediately at usurper interest rates.
Yeah, so it's the ease of access that's the problem, right? Believe it or not, having to drive somewhere to make the call and have the documents that you have to go through is an actual deterrent. That was one of the initially, this was one of the complaints of Robinhood, is that they made it look like a video game, which I very disagree with.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. It's just because it was the first of its kind. Now every brokerage has it.
Yeah, everyone's trying to copy that basically.
Yeah.
I know, I get that. This is why I don't keep all the good snack foods in my own house. I have to drive somewhere to go buy them. 'Cause if
Yeah.
I kept them here, I would eat them anymore.
You know, a lot of it's marketing. Just don't get anything in a gas station. Anything in a gas station is bad. It's all marketing. It's all bright colors. It's all shit. It's not
Spoken
good.
as someone that doesn't live in a food desert, Dylan.
That's fair. That's a good point. That's
All right,
fair.
guys. Well, let us know some other hidden costs of poverty. It's just it was an interesting thing that sent me down that rabbit hole after reading that post, and I wanted to kind of talk about some other ones that you have to be cautious to stay away from.
Yep. How you going, guys?
Just